Okay, so I've just switched on and it's all working, so that's good news. And welcome, people, come on in. We'll just give it a second for everybody to be able to come in. Great to see. Oh, there's some awesome familiar names here, so wonderful to see you all. If you want, give us a wave. Let us know where you are, what you're drinking in the chat, and then I will introduce a session. This is normally where Jo, if she's doing one, she'll run through everybody's names and where they are and things. But look, brilliant to have you all here, and I'm going to crack on because we've only got half an hour together, and well, I'm actually really excited about spending some time with Richmond. So yeah, let's introduce the session. We had this chat a while back about running a coaching session. Obviously, this was after your science session with Le Pub. We've had discussions, we've discussed this over a long period of time. And what we thought, because we've got a live session coming up, we've got an in-person session coming up, we thought we'd give people a flavour of what pain coaching might be. And in my mind, I've got the phrase from fixer to facilitator, and we're going to use that as a sort of springboard to move us through this discussion. If anybody's got any questions, drop them in the chat. Would probably be the easiest thing, or Q&A. And if we've got a bit of time, we'll come to them. Let me introduce. My name's Tim. I'm the founder of Le Pub Scientifique. And I'm a physiotherapist. I've been specialising in pain for years and years and years. I've known Richmond for years and years as well. And Richmond is, well, you were originally specialist pain physiotherapist. First time I ever heard that title, I think. And then pain coach. And I would say you were the first person I ever heard use that term to describe what it is that you do. So I would say that's a nice place to start. So first of all, is pain coaching different from being, for instance, your background as a physiotherapist, for instance, with a patient? And if so, in what way?
That's a good question. It sounded like there was a bit of rock and roll music playing in the background, or some sort of machinery. I think it's gone now. Yeah, that's a really good question. And the idea of coaching came many years ago, probably 20 years ago, I'd say, when I first started playing around with it. And I'd been a coach, a sports coach, actually. And then that sort of thing came up when I was training to be a nurse as well. I remember we had to do a coaching session for each other. As a practical, and I remember teaching a group of fellow student nurses how to bowl, as in cricket. And then I was used to coach my son when he was small, and the local cricket club in Richmond, and just these sort of ideas came, and then I got to know Mike Pegg, who's been a great influence and mentor, amazing guy, and he's really a pioneer of strengths-based coaching. So it's sort of evolved because I just really wanted a way of being that meant that the person was truly at the center of what we're doing, and that we're meeting them there where they are, rather than the way it works in our healthcare system predominantly is that, someone is diagnosed with something or given some sort of label and then pushed down a channel or squeezed through a hole. Rarely are they met where they are, and I think there's an overarching need to do that, but there's also the nuance of doing that moment by moment. So when you're working with someone, you're literally there and responsive to them, their needs in that moment, and it's ever changing. So coaching gives you that flexibility because you're recognizing them as an autonomous being. They're ultimately always going to make the decisions. We guide, we encourage, we empower, we educate, we enable, we provide tools, practical tools and skills and strategies, but then we We help the person understand how to use them, why they're important, but all off the back of really understanding their pain. I mean, that's the first step. But of course, to do all of that, you've got to have a relationship. So that connection is key. So for example, the first sessions I do with people, quite often there isn't actually an examination of, the traditional kind, whatever you're doing. Because actually that's not that relevant in most cases, particularly at that start point, to get their story, to allow them to tell you what's been happening in their own words and to be able to validate the story. But always that connection. So the compassion, the empathy, the being present, the literally your way of being is so important. Every word, the way you say it, your tone, your voice as an instrument, a magnificent instrument, all of these things are really important. That's probably the short answer.
Great. Well, it gives us somewhere to work from, doesn't it? So as I'm hearing it, what I'm wondering is, what would the advantage of working like that be for your patient or client, or however you view them then?
Well, I think my first comment about that is that because they're truly at the center of what's going on and they're making the decisions, you're alongside them doing that. You're not telling them what to do. And to speak of the sort of title, fixer to facilitator, we're trained in our healthcare system. The biomedical approach is all about fixing. You find something wrong with them, and then you fix it for them. But overcoming pain, and I probably would need to define that, but overcoming pain, it's a learning process. It's an active process where the person needs to engage with certain things. Only they can do it. We can't do it for them. And you might say, well, hold on a minute. If someone breaks a bone, I mean, obviously it's not our job, but if someone breaks a bone, they go and have surgery, and surely that fixes it. I mean, it's even called a fixation, isn't it? And I suppose that is partly, but that's not the truth of it, because that's not the complete story. Yes, you might put a rod in or some bolts and other bits of metal, but that's just actually quite a small part of it. Obviously, it needs to be done well and skillfully, but then you've got the whole healing process and how to live. And I think this is the a big feature of the coaching is it's skills of living that really matter. The big deal for pain is still pills or medication, interventions, exercise. And most people, that's fine. But actually, those things are really small. Even exercise is a really small part of shaping a better life. Really small. I mean, it's very important, but it's small. So say, for example, someone's given, a handful of exercises to do, and they do them really, really well each day as sort of prescribed, 10 by 3 and all that nonsense, without any nuance. Just do 10 by 3. Why? I don't know. Just do 10 by 3. But even if they're doing those things really, really well and diligently, you're talking about a matter of minutes. Now, a lot of the people that we work with will be up for 16, 20 hours a day. Okay, what about the other bit? How are you living? How are you reconnecting with what matters? So the massive chunk of time is rarely managed well. And unless you are, that person's really not going to make much progress. I mean, they will be making progress because fundamentally things are always changing, but they probably won't be achieving the successes that they could, and inevitably come back to focusing on their suffering again, because what you focus on governs how you feel.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of thoughts then, and I suppose as we're following that thread, I'm wondering how, for instance, I mean, pain coaching is, if you look at the literature, it's not there. What is there? There are studies on coaching for people in pain, and they're typically health and wellness coaching. So I'm wondering, what, if any, difference might there be between those two then?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, because I think I'm sort of starting to see a little bit of conflation there, and they are fundamentally different. Now, the skills of being well and healthy skills are part of what a pain coach would do. Absolutely, because that's a big deal. You've got to be watering the right seeds in your life. You've got to be working towards the things that you want to achieve, and being healthy and well and fit and strong and mobile are usually in there. I mean, we want to be more specific than that, but as a broad brush. So that is an element of it. But a health coach won't have the background in pain. And perhaps even have a background in healthcare necessarily. There's quite brief courses and things you can do to become a health coach, but then you're going to have some, there'll be doctors, there'll be physios, there'll be others who go and do that. So they do have that kind of background, but without a really in-depth understanding of pain. And of course, pain reaches across a whole range of fields. In fact, it's almost like there isn't a pain field. It's kind of made up of, well, like everything, isn't it? Everything's made up of things. And then we give it a name, a kind of a concept. A chair is made up of lots of different things, isn't it? It becomes a chair when it's kind of put together. If all the pieces are laid out, it's no longer a chair. It's just bits of wood and metal and such like. So there's so much that needs to be known about that, because if you don't know that, you can't explain it, but you also need the skills to be able to explain it as well. You need to be able to communicate and teach, and get the timing right of that, and build that relationship side. So that, obviously the health coaches would potentially be good at that as well. But I just think it's the depth that's needed, because we're talking about people who are vulnerable. We're talking about people in very, very difficult situations, lots and lots of different challenges that are all interlinked. And you frequently hear how it's still siloed out. Well, now they're going to have psychology. Now they're going to have physio. Now, and I kind of get why that happens, but we need to be moving forward from that. And I see that a pain coach would actually offer a huge amount there. I mean, unless there's a specific reason for psychology, I certainly don't think everyone with pain needs to go and have psychology sessions. But if there's a particular reason, there's some particular kind of trauma that they need help with. But even then, there's always this risk of these frameworks. Now, this won't be a popular view, but all these frameworks, we got ACTs, we got CBTs, we got all these names, and there's usually huge crossover with them all, and a lot of them draw on the similar kinds of things anyway. And just think, well, I'm going to do CBT to that person, or I'm going to do. It's much more about you and how you are with them. And I think that when you're experienced, you're not thinking about the framework. You're certainly not pressing, and same for physio, pressing some kind of framework onto people. Again, it's that meeting them where they are. And I think that's what a good coach, a high quality coach will do. They'll put that person at the center of their world and make them feel like they're the center of their world.
And I do see, Marie, thanks for the question. I'll come to that. I'm wondering then how that might positively impact that person in pain.
What, the fact that you're there with them, or
and putting them front and center, and
they may be surprised. Actually, some people might. I mean, let's look at right across the board. Some people might be so full of expectation that stuff's going to be done to them because that's their belief, that's what they've been told. But actually, they're like, oh, well, I've got to do this. So, but these are the conversations about change. I mean, as you know, I think that motivation interviewing is a wonderful style of being with people. It's not a set of techniques. It's really, I mean, there are things that you're doing, but in a sense, but it's much more, again, about the way that you are. But these are the kinds of limitations or limiting beliefs that people have, and as you know well, but not everyone knows, the beliefs that we have about things are shaping our very experiences. So we need to explore that. So I want to know in detail, well, why do you think you're experiencing that? So I can meet them where they are. And actually, a lot of the kind of foundational practices and skills working with people is for them to be able to cut through the noise, to cut through their conditioned beliefs, to get to the nub of what's going on so they can actually meet their needs. I mean, the best example of that although it's not the only way, would be a meditation practice. That's really what that's about. It's cutting through the noise to see what's actually happening. It's not about relaxing or pain relief, these sort of Western ideas that we've hoiked mindfulness out. It's just one of the Eightfold Path. It's not the whole deal. And most people, when they're practicing, they don't know enough of the kind of, you want to call it Buddhist psychology, to be employing that skill most effectively. So they end up going down the wrong path quite quickly. But yeah, getting to the nub to be able to make best decisions. That's like our superpower, is making decisions. I'm deciding that my focus is going to be on getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How do I do that? And so the pain coach is the how. The person usually knows the kinds of things they want to do. They might have put them off the agenda. But then you have a conversation about that, and you're like, well, what kinds of things do you love doing? Well, because we need to look at what they want to reconnect with. There's no bigger or greater pain reliever than reconnecting with living, because you're in different biological states and different experiential states. So if you learn, to recognize what state you're in by being more present, learn how to shift gears, then you can get into more resourceful states to be following your path towards, whatever it is you want to achieve. And as the pain coach, you're alongside, sometimes with the torch, sometimes just guiding them back on the path, sometimes picking them up, whatever it might be. But you're there alongside until they see their own potential and strengths and positive history to use and take themselves forward.
Yeah. Perhaps this is a good time then to bring Marie's question. Mark's question. Sorry, Marie. Have you experienced when someone is empowered in their treatment that they struggle to take responsibility?
Oh yeah, no, definitely, and that has to be explored. Sometimes you are kind of gently holding the mirror up. And again, these kind of compassionate conversations about change allow you to do that, really quite comfortably. So you're gently asking questions so that they come up with the reasons for their own change. They start telling you why they've got their limitations, and because they're saying it, it's much more powerful. You're not telling them. So although I'd be wrong to say that at times I don't slip back into telling people what to do. I think it's in us. But my practice is really not to do that. It's to be there to create that safe space for them to realize themselves, and be able to then create the conditions for them to flourish, to move forward.
So I have a sort of observation, observation. When people have observed me doing whatever my version of pain coaching might be, a comment that sometimes comes back is that I'm not doing much, and I just wondered about your thoughts there. If you're a coach and someone's saying it doesn't look like you're doing much, what is that a reflection of, or what might that be a reflection of?
A bit like that, isn't it? Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're trying to get the greatest leverage with minimal movement. So say we're just guides. We're not kind of moving people around as such. We're merely guiding them and encouraging them, and empowering them. It's when people start doing things for themselves, or realize that they're doing things for themselves, they actually realize that they're actually doing things. For some people, it's amazing that they've come to the session. Even on, I do a lot of sessions online now, and just the fact that someone's come to the screen can be, but they don't necessarily recognize that, because there's a part of them that's going, I should be there, that should be easier, I should be doing this. And again, it's learning to help them to see that, to see that thought pattern, and ask them, well, that kind of thought pattern, how does it feel? It doesn't feel very good. Okay, is that how you want to feel? No. Well, how do you want to feel? I want to feel like this. Okay, well, what kinds of thoughts, what could you focus on that makes you feel like that? Or indeed run them through imagery or visualization or something else, or some sort of breathing practice, and get them to check into how that is. And then they realize, oh, actually, I changed my state there. So it's trying to get into resourceful states as much as possible, or good and great states, you could call them that. And then when you shift out of them, to be able to recognize your need by cutting through the noise, use your skills to deal with that. Because again, when people start realizing through insight that it's about what you focus on that matters, it's the kind of questions you ask yourself that matters, because that kind of guides you. The fact that what's happening is already happening, and regardless of your preferences, that's what's happening. So you can get caught up in your preferences if you like, but you'll just suffer more, or you can see it for what it is. So it's not about what's happening, it's how you relate to it that matters. So it's helping people see that hinge point, because that's the skill. That's the bit that we can control. We can't control how life turns up as much as we want to. You can't. It just turns up. And the more that we can be open to whatever's happening, the more we're going to be able to deal with life skillfully and keep moving in the direction of choice. Doesn't mean it's not hard at times. It's really hard at times, and it can be very emotional, it can be very painful, lots of suffering, but that will pass. And the third big insight is impermanence or transience. Things are always changing. Each moment's different. So I always have this discussion, I think, with pretty much everyone, because at some point someone's going to say it's the same. And I say, well, how can anything ever be the same? We have that discussion, which is always interesting. But it opens up possibility when people realize that nothing can actually ever be the same. And the other ones, I've gone backwards. You own a time machine then, a bit of a laugh. Obviously, I timed that quip. But yeah, you can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. Okay. Oh, and what's the other one? It's a bad day. Good and bad days. What, like all day? Was it bad all day? Every single moment was bad. Yes, it was. Okay. I mean, you soon sort of disrupt or jostle. These are sticky beliefs. Because of course, if they're telling you that, they're telling themselves that over and over and over. And what you keep telling yourself becomes your truth. Not the truth, but it comes. That's why politicians just keep repeating things, because they know that a number of people will actually start believing them just through pure repetition.
Yeah. Lovely. I think we've got just a little bit of time. There are some questions, and I think this ties in with perhaps the more practical elements of coaching. The question I had in my head as we were just talking there is, I see people entirely online, video calls, and I'm wondering, I feel like it's possible, and the people that I work with feel like it's possible, but how would you see, what's the merit of, for instance, working face to face versus via video, or even is it possible to do it on the telephone?
Yeah, it is. I've done one this morning. I do a lot of medical legal stuff, and for various reasons, people sometimes don't like to be on screen. So they do it on the phone. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we're usually in this kind of work because we like helping people. We want to be with people in the room, but the online offers this flexibility. I mean, I was doing online stuff, as you probably were, well before COVID anyway. But then when all the COVID stuff happened, that just went and has remained that way. I mean, I go into London 2 or 3 times a week, but I'd say that a good 40-50% of my stuff is online now. Even people who could come in, they choose it because it's convenient. And so it does work, but you need to be confident in your style. And I think that would come out more. I'd say actually it's more intense doing it. It's online, because you don't have the breaks or the mini breaks that you might have in a session where, they might be sort of, I don't know, getting changed or something, or you might be rearranging something or whatever. Yeah. And also the conversation flow, you need to slow it down online, because otherwise it's quite easy to be talking over each other. So you have to slow it down even more to make sure that there's the space and whatnot. So it is different in many ways to deliver the high level that you want to.
Yeah. And Gisa, sorry, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. How much time do you have with clients? I might add to that, how much time might be necessary to create for people as well?
Yeah, I mean, usually my sessions are about an hour. I mean, sometimes it goes way over,
I don't believe that.
Quite often. I mean, I'm lucky because I run my own schedule. I I make sure I only see a certain number each week because I've got, you know, lots of other project things going on as well. And also because I want to be fully there and have the energy and bring that energy to the session. So yeah, it's usually an hour, but I have gaps in between so that I can run over. And because quite often the conversations I'm having with people are usually really interesting. So we just sort of about all sorts of stuff, because that's you know, if you're a fly on the wall watching, you might see some of these conversations about, you know, whatever it is. I think, well, what's that got to do with anything? Why they're not there for a chat. Their state is changing, and then you can show that up to them. And usually they're talking about something with some sort of passion. So then you can bring them to their body and reconnect with the body. Lots of people dissociate with chronic pain. It's not something that's taught much, if at all. And most patients don't realize that's what they're doing. I mean, it's a basic defense that we all have from you know, when we're small and we're experiencing unpleasant sensations that we can't understand, we don't have the mind to deal with, so we dissociate. But connecting with the body is so important. So again, it's a nice way of bringing that around without them necessarily knowing that's what you're doing. That sounds a bit manipulative, doesn't it? But I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, well, yeah, and but it also, as I'm hearing it, it allows you to maintain the connection as well of body or person in world, doesn't it? So
Oh yeah, yeah.
there's a real strength there. Oh, there's so much we could talk about, isn't there? Because it starts making me think about trauma-informed approaches and how that links and all sorts. Sadly, we are running out of time. I know, Marie, yes, going outside would be, I mean, that's something that I love to do, or taking someone to different areas would be lovely as well. I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to share, first of all, a link there for our live session. And Marie's coming, so it'd be brilliant to see you, Marie. Now, the live session is with the two of us. It's going to be a practical experience, isn't it? It's people doing and feeling. I think that might be an important thing to add, to feeling what it might be like to being taken through the process and to take someone through the process of coaching. And that will be on Saturday, the 9th of December.
I mean, rightly so. Yeah, definitely be scared. It's going to be a very harrowing experience.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. But you know, this stuff's so important. So you know, we don't sort of pull any punches or anything. But you know, these are ways that we can really shape or help people shape their lives in better and better ways. So we've got a great responsibility. So we've got to do it right.
I totally agree, and so we'd love to see as many of you as can come. It will be an intimate group, won't it? An intimate group. Got a beautiful setting near London Bridge for those of you who know London, so easy for those if you want to travel in to get to us. And afterwards, we'll be holding the Le Pub Christmas quiz. and having a few drinks and a little gathering and just meet people. So we'd love to see as many of you as can come and join us. Thank you all. Thank you, Richmond, giving us a taste. I mean, it's just a little sprinkling, isn't it, of what you've got to offer. And I wish you all the very best.
Cool. Good to see you. Thanks, Tim. Always good to chat.
Likewise. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.